Yeah, I think we can all agree it should have been one last ride, but sadly it wasn't. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. We have two movies to look at today to kick off April 2015, and we're starting off with the seventh installment of the Fast and Furious series, Furious 7. In this one, of course, Dominic Toretto, once again played by Vin Diesel and his crew, thought they left their criminal mercenary life behind them. They defeated an international terrorist named Owen Shaw and went their separate ways. But now Shaw's brother Deckard, played by Jason Statham, is out killing the crew one by one for revenge. Worse, a Somalian terrorist called Jakarad, played by Jamin Hansu, and a shady government officer called Mr. Nobody are both competing to steal a computer terrorism program called God's Eye that can turn any technological device into a weapon. Toretto must reconvene with his team to stop Shaw and retrieve the God's Eye program while caught in a power struggle between terrorists and the United States government. I mean, I've kind of touched on the other Fast and Furious movies overall since we started doing this show. I mean, the first one I like, second one, so bad it's good, third one, just kind of bad, fourth one's really good, fifth one I think was the best one up to this point, and sixth was just okay. So this one in particular, there was a lot of big things, of course, obviously, with the fact that this was the first movie in the series to come out after the death of Paul Walker a year and a half prior. But I'll save that part for last. Let's talk about the film itself overall. Honestly, this really was probably my second favorite of the series in general. I like the fact of the way they approached this film in general. They basically just said, let's just go as insane and as over-the-top as we can, and we'll just have fun with it. And I feel like they succeeded with that, and then some. There's no point even bothering to talk about how stupid the story is, because the film itself makes it very clear that the story or the consistency of the plot doesn't really matter. It's about how insane this gets, and boy, if you thought the safe chase at the end of Fast 5 was over the top, wait until you see what the stuff they do here. I mean, you got all these scenes of them flying these cars out of airplanes and not them being instantly killed or severely damaged. And then there's a scene where Dom and Brian drive the car out of 3 buildings high up in the air. 3 of them. They're all in these trailers, but there's nothing compared to the ending, in which Vin Diesel and Jason Statham go mano a mano on a parking garage before Jackanade intervenes and attacks both of them. And Shaw's apprehended when part of that parking garage collapses and stomps down on it with his foot, and it collapses. I am not kidding. Dom literally stomps it to the ground, and the whole thing comes careening down. Like, that is an example of the insanity of this movie, and I loved every second of it. This was back when the series made it work because you did like what they were building up to here. I mean, it's so over-the-top ridiculous, you couldn't help but love it. They were able to get away with it in this movie. Afterwards, there's another story, but we'll touch on that again in just a second here. But at the same time, as insane as it gets, it does find that sense of sentimentality to it, especially when you consider, like I said, this was Paul Walker's last movie before he passed away, and, you know, considering how insane the franchise had gotten up to this point, it would have been so easy to just assume that Walker may have been killed off. And honestly, I really think they did the best job they could have done with letting his character go. They don't kill him off, but they basically send him off in a way that doesn't feel tacky or force whatsoever. You see a little bit in the trailer there where, you know, Dom and, you know, Brian go their separate ways in their cars, and it feels very genuine, it feels authentic, and it does not feel like it's trying to force a manipulative action out of you. Like, regardless of what many people may think of Paul Walker as an actor, which he really wasn't that bad of an actor overall. He had a couple of bad movies here and there, but he was never a terrible actor. I mean, Running Scared, 8 Below, like, those are movies that are definitely worth watching with him in the leading role. Like, he's part of the reason why those movies work so well. He's got a great chemistry with everybody involved in the cast, including Vin Diesel. When I watched this movie, my only thought to myself is, this was like the Star Trek 6 of the Fast and Furious franchise. Like, this should have been the last time we see these characters together. And, you know, considering how successful this was, there is going to be more Fast and Furious movies. And just like Star Trek, I thought if they were going to continue this, now's the opportunity to do something like a next generation franchise, where you bring the next generation of Fast and Furious people out into this. And I feel like you could put some new young actors in this and make it work. They didn't go in that direction, and instead they continued on with the original guys. And yeah, almost immediately after this movie came along, that's when the series really begins going back to its inevitable downfall. I mean, the moment Charlize Theron comes in as Cypher, that's when these cars literally go careening off the cliff, like, kaboom, like, and, you know, I mean, we'll touch on that as we go along with the second movie coming out in 2 years' time, the next movie coming out in 2 years' time, but yeah, this really should have been where the series should have left off. I mean, this was a movie that it's an action-packed fun, over-the-top movie, but it also finds enough heart when it needs to do so, and humor when it makes it very fun to watch in the end. It's a good, fun, silly time of the movies that's worth checking out, and this, again, should have been the end of the Fast and Furious series. It wasn't, and of course, we all have to pay the consequences for it afterwards, but we will get to that as we go along here, but there you go. That's Furious 7 for you. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is Ryan Reynolds and Helen Mirren in Woman in Gold.
Woman in Gold, rated PG-13.
Yeah, if the Weinstein Company's putting out a movie that they think that looks like an Oscar contender before Oscar season comes along, 9 times out of 10, it's probably not that very good. And even if you have people like Helen Mirren and Ryan Reynolds, and also Katie Holmes, Tatiana Maslany from Orphan Black, Elizabeth McGovern, Charles Dance, Jonathan Pryce, yeah, this doesn't save the film in general here. This is based on the true story of Maria Altman, who's played by Mirren in this, an elderly Jewish refugee living in Cheviot Hills, Los Angeles, who, together with his young lawyer, Randy, played by Ryan Reynolds, fought the government of Austria for almost a decade to reclaim Gustav Klimt's iconic painting of her Aunt Adele Bloch-Bauer, Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer No. 1, which was stolen, Bauer the First, I should say, which was stolen by her relatives by the Nazis in Vienna just prior to World War II. Altman takes her legal battle all the way to the Supreme Court, which ruled in the case Republic of Austria versus Altman 2004. Yeah, this is a movie where, like I said, it's like a movie that's trying to be like a big Oscar contender for the year. Instead, they put it on in April. And knowing Harvey Weinstein's ability to get these movies awards consideration, the fact that he doesn't put enough effort into this movie in particular should probably give you a warning sign that, yeah, this thing ain't working out, and sadly, it doesn't work out in the end. It's a kind of a boring movie in general, and you know, I will give Ryan Reynolds this. I will give Ryan Reynolds this. He is trying to do something that's outside of his norm. The movie doesn't suffer because of its actors. Ryan Reynolds can be good in this movie. So is Helen Mirren. So is Daniel Bruhl, Katie Holmes, Tatiana Maslany, Charles Dance, Elizabeth McGovern, Jonathan Pryce. They're not the problem here. The director's not the problem either. Simon Curtis. Simon Curtis has done, last movie he did was My Week in Maryland. He also did the David Copperfield movie. He also did Goodbye Christopher Robin, which will come out after this. He's done the Downton Abbey movies, The Art of Racing in the Rain. He's not a bad director. I just think the script overall, it's the typical definition of a cliched riddle Oscar bait movie, where we're trying so hard to get this movie an Oscar, get this movie as many awards as we can, but unfortunately there's just nothing there to say that this movie is something that needs to be seen by the public as this big special movie that you need to go out, rush out and see. It's just not there with this film. It's a lackluster film with a story that's not really all that engaging overall, and it is a long movie in general. You're sitting here for nearly 2 hours watching these two going into this courtroom case that really is not really leading to a whole lot of intriguing things about it. It's a major flaw of a film that just doesn't really have anything to work with its actors or its director. They're not the problems. The script overall is the biggest flaw of the film. It's too been there, done that. It's too Oscar cliched riddled. And it just needed that spark to really make it stand out to be something unique and different. And sadly, it's just not there with this movie at all. So, yeah, that's a skip on Woman in Gold. And so, with all that said, we wrap up another episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we have 2 more movies to look at for April. Nicholas Sparks, another one of his books, becomes a movie, and it's a movie featuring future Tomorrowland star Britt Robertson, The Longest Ride, and we have then the far superior movie of the weekend, and one of the best movies of the year in general, Alex Garland's Ex Machina, featuring Alicia Vikander and also Oscar Isaac among its cast. We'll touch on those 2 movies coming up on the next episode. That'll be, of course, tomorrow. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.